Hello friends, welcome back to the shop. Today is Sunday, February 4th, and it is a very cold morning here in eastern Pennsylvania. February is sort of coming into its own, as it should. And for those of you that are, at least within North America, living under a rock, today is Super Bowl Sunday. I'm very excited about that this year because the Eagles are finally going to win their first Super Bowl. Yeah, I know there's some senior citizen fellow up in New England that everybody's all excited about, but yeah, the Eagles have a really excellent team this year, and I just see no issue with it. We can revisit that next week. So today I am smoking my Europe pipe. These are really wonderful pipes. If you don't have one, I suggest you get one. I own this one, and I've been able to work on a few of them. And I can tell you that they're at least this grade of Europe. It's a factory pipe. It's a well-made factory pipe, but sometimes the drilling's a bit off. Sometimes it's not. It's a case of you get what you pay for, but there's a lot of value in them, and that when at least this guy here is just a fantastic smoke, and yeah, I really love it. I love the shape. It's very pot-like. It's ample chamber, and it looks pretty. So good pipes. And in the Europe, I am smoking Peter Stokkebye Cube Cut, which I have not stopped smoking since last you saw me. It's just a really great tobacco. I love it. I just want to. The one problem with Cube Cut is you have to be careful when you're getting it going. Once it's going, it goes. That's why I'm relighting some here. So, if you've been watching me for any length of time, you know this little guy has been giving me fits. I would strike 5 or 6 times before I'd finally get a flame. First strike, I fixed it. And if you're interested in a little bit of information about Zippos and sort of the care and feeding of these guys and how I fixed it, that will be the subject of my blog post, which is posting on Monday. So be sure to check that out. You can get to it from my website, canrodpipes.com. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it informative. If you have a Zippo, I think you'll enjoy it, even if you never use the method that I show you. There's a little bit of interesting stuff there about the Zippos. I hope my dogs don't continue to do that. I may have to go break that up, whatever's going on. Yeah, I'll be back in a moment. Sorry about that. The two dogs were chewing on seemingly identical chew toys. And Isabel, who's the larger dog, Isabel and Thatcher are sisters, so they're the same age, but Isabel is quite a bit larger than Thatcher. Isabel decided, for reasons known only to herself, that she needed to chew on the toy that Thatcher was chewing on, and it required an intervention, but all is well now. It's like I was saying, a blog post on the Zippo may be of interest to you if you're a Zippo user. Take a look at it, and please, if you do, and I don't want to push it too much, but I enjoy writing it. I'd really like feedback. So if you do take a look at it and you like it or you hate it, let me know. So the main thing I wanted to talk about today, other than plugging my blog and gloating about the Eagles, is I wanted to do actually a VR to a video that IronRails and PipeDreams posted. And if you don't know IronRails and PipeDreams channel, you really should. He's a great guy. I really, really enjoy watching his videos. Always something interesting. And even he, as you can tell by the IronRails in his channel title, he has a love of trains, and I like trains too. There's just something about a big train going by, and he's got several videos where he's just videoed the trains, and it's wonderful to watch. So anyway, check him out. I'll put a link above and below, specifically to his video, because he did a video recently where he talked about his 10 favorite movies, or his top 10 movie list. And I really enjoyed it because, first off, there were quite a few movies that I had never heard of. Well, I shouldn't say that. I probably had heard of them all, but I've not seen a fair number of them. At least half of them I had not seen. And to hear someone that I enjoy listening to and respect his ideas to say, this is a good movie, it makes me rethink it. And I think, well, maybe I'll give that a shot. And, I might hate it, but it's still better than just randomly picking something off of Netflix. So I really liked it from that point of view. The other thing is that I realized that my list is going to be very, very different than his list, which is expected because different people like different things. And I started to think, what are my top 10 favorite movies? And I put together a list. I was surprised at how easy it was for me to come to the number 10. I actually had 11 and had to narrow it down at one point. But what I realized very quickly is that it's impossible to really have a, number 10, number 9, where these are really rated or ranked in any particular fashion. So what I've got is 8 movies that I really like a lot, and then my top 2. The top 2 are definitely above the other 8, but it's hard for me to say this is the first one, this is the second one. So just take this for what it's worth. I think a lot of these movies are going to be new to a lot of you folks because I don't know many people that have watched several of these, so be interested to hear any feedback. If you decide you'd like to do a similar experiment and list your top 10s, or if you just want to do it in the comments, please be sure to look at IronRails and PipeDreams video and give him the feedback because he's the guy that started this. So, top 10 movies in no particular order until we get to number 1 and 2. So number 10 is a 1971 film starring George C. Scott, which is titled They Might Be Giants. I'm a Sherlock Holmes fan, a big Sherlock Holmes fan. I mean, I not only like the movies and the series and reading the books, but I actually belong to groups that get into the Sherlock Holmes stories and try to ferret out details and things like that. So it's something that I really do enjoy quite a bit. This is not a traditional Sherlock Holmes movie by any stretch. George C. Scott has I think his wife is killed, and the stress of that causes him to believe that he is Sherlock Holmes. And Joanne Woodward plays a psychologist named Watson who is trying to help him, and they wind up, let's just say they have an adventure. It's a fantastic movie, so check it out if you haven't seen it. Number 9, and this is an oddity for me because it's, first off, you'll notice a lot of these movies are old, and many of them were made before I was even born. But number 9 is a modern science fiction movie, and by modern I mean it was made within my lifetime. And that is the 1984 film Dune. Dune is is based on the classic science fiction novel of the same name by Frank Herbert. It's a fantastically made movie. I'm not a huge Frank Herbert fan. I did read Dune before the movie came out, and it was a good book. I didn't hate it or anything, but it wasn't like I couldn't wait for them to make a movie of it. But this movie was just so well done in terms of just creating this entire self-contained universe where you can just suspend disbelief and just fall into it for a long movie too. I think it was almost 2 hours long. But it was beautifully filmed. I really liked it. It was directed by David Lynch. really just a fun movie to watch. And I rarely rewatch movies, but that's one that I've probably seen 3 or 4 times. The next one, and this is just a fun movie, 1968, Once Upon a Time in the West. Charles Bronson, Henry Fonda, incredible Western, just really well made. Bronson is fantastic in this movie. And the scene that I just love is, and it's a very well-known scene, Bronson gets off of a train, and he's supposed to be met at the train station by someone, and that person doesn't show up, but there are 3 men there to meet him. And they're standing quite far apart, and Bronson is there playing his harmonica. He plays a harmonica throughout this movie, and he's just looking out with these steely gray eyes, just assessing the situation and blowing on the harmonica. And there's some dialogue, and Bronson notices that there's 3 horses and there's 3 men, and he says, "Did you think to bring a horse for me?" And the leader of the group of 3 responds, "No, looks like we've got 1 horse too few." And Bronson just shakes his head and says, "No, you brought 2 too many." And it's a great scene, and he's wonderful in this movie. It was Sergio Leone, spaghetti western, a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in the West, yes, go ahead and watch that one. You'll definitely enjoy that one. Number 7 is a movie that I'm willing to bet none of you have ever seen. This is a very obscure one that I just happened to catch one day. This is back when I was in school. When I was in school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there was always a movie on. It was called The 4 O'Clock Show. And I'm kind of saddened that that's all been replaced by, this crazy nonsense of, well, I don't want to get into what the crazy nonsense is, because maybe you're a big fan of crazy nonsense, I don't know. But The 4 O'Clock Show was a lot of fun. I saw a lot of great movies on that when I was a kid, especially in the wintertime. You come home, it's too cold to go out. Turn on the TV and watch an interesting movie. And this movie was made in 1973, and it is originally titled Emperor of the North. For some reason, later releases of this film were titled Emperor of the North Pole. It has nothing to do with the North Pole. It's a movie about a hobo played by Lee Marvin. And he is trying to ride a particular train, and that particular train is policed by a character named Shaq, who is played by Ernest Borgnine. And Shaq is known for basically killing hobos that try to ride his train. And anybody that can ride from one end to the other on this train will become the king of the hobos, I guess. It's a great movie. It's really lots of action, lots of scenes of people climbing around on trains trying to kill one another. It's good fun. All right, now that's actually the end of any recently made movies, if you consider 1973 recent. So I think for the rest of this list, these were all made prior to my arrival on this planet, but I enjoy them. So number 6, Greta Garbo film made in 1939 titled Ninotchka. And Ninotchka is a really interesting movie. So Garbo plays a Russian woman who goes to Paris for some official Russian business, and she's a very stern communist. And she meets a gentleman there as she's doing whatever it is she's supposed to be doing, and she finds herself attracted to him, and he breaks the ice and breaks her icy exterior. The tagline for this movie was Garbo Laughs, because Garbo wasn't known for comedy. And there is a scene in it that's just wonderful where she breaks out laughing. Greta Garbo had a quality about her where she just glowed, and in this movie it's just really apparent. It's a wonderful movie to watch. It's a bit mushy. It's a love story basically, but you know, it's a good movie. Number 5, The Thin Man. William Powell and Myrna Loy did a series of movies based on stories by Dashiell Hammett. And Dashiell Hammett wrote The Thin Man and some additional movies in that, additional books in that series. And this is about Nick Charles and his wife Nora Charles, who Nick is a supposedly retired detective, but he keeps getting pulled into cases that he has to solve. Nora's a wealthy socialite. They both drink a lot, and there's just all this wonderful banter back and forth between the two of them. They're great fun movies to watch. I first saw this when I was a kid. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and I was staying for the summer with my grandparents. And the local station had it was a local PBS station actually, had a thing where every Saturday night they would play a movie in a series. So this summer it was the Thin Man series, and we watched them religiously, and it was just great fun. So, The Thin Man, 1934, really enjoyable movie. Sorry about the cut there, had some more dog trouble. So the next film on the list is one that I was really fortunate to even see. It's not a movie that I ever would have found by myself. I used to travel a lot for business, and I was on a transatlantic flight, British Air. Usually I would try to sleep the whole way over to the UK, and this night, for whatever reason, I woke up in the middle of the flight and couldn't get back to sleep. So I put on a movie that was playing, and it was a movie called Brief Encounter. Brief Encounter is a 1945 film starring Celia Ward and Trevor Howard. And it's a beautiful movie. It's a movie about a woman who meets a man in a train station, just accidentally. That's the brief encounter. And essentially, she's married, happily married, and she essentially winds up falling in love with the stranger. It's beautifully made because there's no. She remains faithful to her husband throughout the whole movie. Yet there's this tension between them that builds, and she's clearly falling in love with this man. It's a beautiful movie, and it's made in a way that I don't think a movie would ever be made today, because today they would just go straight to divorce and running off with the other person. It's a product of a different time, but it's a really beautiful thing to watch. So that's Brief Encounter, 1945. Number 3. This isn't going to surprise anyone that this is on the list. 1931, Frankenstein. Boris Karloff, Colin Clive. A horror classic. There's nothing else I can say about Frankenstein. And if I wanted to, I would be redundant with my Boris Karloff video, which I'll link above for you if you haven't seen it. This is it's certainly in my top 5 horror films. I'm very close to being number 1. The last 2, my top 2 movies, and these really are above the other 8. So those 8 are all pretty much on equal footing, in my opinion. But the top 2, interestingly, were both made in 1954. And there's some of you out there that already know what one of those 2 movies is, just by the date. 1954 is a very famous year for film fans. Number 2. Again, these are not in any particular order. These just are the top 2. Number 2 is Shiro Honda's incredible film, Godzilla. Or Godzilla King of the Monsters, as it's sometimes called, or Gojira, as it's called in Japanese. The original Japanese version, not the one where Raymond Burr is cut in. That's a great movie too, but that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the original Japanese version of Godzilla. You got to read subtitles, obviously. I don't speak Japanese, but It's great. It's just a good movie. It's dark. It's got tragedy. It's got a horrible monster that's ravaging the town. It's got people trying to pull together to stop it. It's got a love story, a love triangle. It just, I can't say enough about Godzilla. If you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. Go watch Godzilla. It's really good. And the other 1954 movie, which I'm calling number one here, also a Japanese movie, also a very, very well-known film, and that is Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. The Seven Samurai is an amazing movie, and again, you've got to watch it in Japanese with subtitles, but wow. You watch this movie and you just keep recognizing things in it. Even if you've never seen it before, you're going to recognize, because it's been so influential. So many movies since 1954 have borrowed from that, have paid homage to it. And his Kurosawa had an ability to frame scenes that just it's incredible. You feel like you're in the scene, even though this is an old black and white Japanese film. You get pulled right into it. It's really wonderful, and it stars I'm going to get his name right, Takashi Shimura, and Takashi Shimura was also Dr. Yamane in Godzilla. So it's amazing that this actor was able to make these two movies at the same time, because they both came out in 1954. But Shimura is a very famous Japanese actor, and he actually starred in 21 of the 30 films that Kurosawa made. So if you're a fan of Kurosawa, you're going to get to see Takashi Shimura quite a bit. So that's my list. It's 10 films. I'm willing to bet quite a few of those are ones that you've never seen, and I encourage you to check them out. They're all worth the time invested in watching them, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you would like to do something similar, or if you want to just list them or something, please go to IronRails and PipeDreams channel for that. Go to his video, which I will link down below, because it was his idea that got me interested in doing this. So with that, I'm going to go on with my Sunday. I'm going to finish this pipe. I may make one more VR that I will post. Well, if I'm successful, you may see one more video from me today. And otherwise, I am working on hopefully having a shop video this Wednesday. If not this Wednesday, maybe next Wednesday. It's not going to be a series. It's just a one-off, something fun that I'm doing. So I hope you'll join me for that. Check out the blog on Monday for some Zippo information. And until we speak again, I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Go Eagles.